Hello there, and welcome back to Alpine and our speedrun. Currently, we are in a very comfortable 4th place here in the championship. Everything is going fairly well, let's put it like that. Our boys are enthusiastic, the car development is going great, and what I think that we're going to be doing today is speed things up ever so slightly, in the sense that we are still going to be playing some of the races, but we're probably going to not play races that is not going to be very likely for us to score points, like Austria, like Italy, Baku, for some reason, because we have low top speed, I assume. But yeah, some of these places we're not expected to perform well, but we're probably going to take a look at Silverstone, we're probably going to take a look at Hungary. But as I mentioned here, we might try and speed things up a little bit now, as we have kind of already settled into the position where we're most likely to finish this first year. I don't think we can fight McLaren, Ferrari, or Red Bull. To pull that off, we're going to need a little bit more of a miracle, and we'd also need to have not done any research. We would have had to completely focus on the design to make that happen. So, as such, we are going to be simming a little bit through the races today, just to speed progress up a little bit. And personally, I think that is a acceptable way of doing things. Generally, play the races you find fun. Same through the one where you're not likely to get a good result. Of course, if there's a safety car, things can change. But with a completely wet Austrian GP, could argue that we could see opportunities. But generally here, our car is not made for Austria to begin with. So that's going to do the easy thing here and simulate through. And as I said, probably the British and Hungarian GP are going to be races that we are going to be manually controlling. Now, we qualified 12th and 14th here, so sprint here should not be anything we have a chance on. We need to get up to 8 to score points. Let's see what our boys can do. There's tension in the air. If we can turn this into points. Okay, results. Sprint. Ocon actually did manage to convert it into a couple of points, so clearly I was wrong. Maybe we want to do the race itself then. I'm actually a bit surprised that both of our drivers improved 5 places with only Hamilton out, so yeah, it might have been ever so slightly wrong. Let's see if we can get a decent setup here, and we will take a look at quali. It is still going to be a wet race, so it is opportunities. I'm probably just being a little bit negative, let's be honest. I do have a tendency to do that every now and again. It's not a good habit to have, but it should still be fine. Okay, let's see what we can do with our car. Do you know the optimal for this one? Let us do it like this. I think it's a little bit too far to the right here, we'll see. But I think this can still be a very, very fun race weekend if we're lucky. Gonna get through quali here. Let's see where we stack up on the grid. Quali went as we expected here. We got beaten by the Bulls, by the Ferraris, and the McLarens, which is, again, kind of the situation that we find ourselves in. We are the 4th best team currently, based on how we are performing in the race weekends. And let's face it, we're not going to be able to threaten these top 6 cars, top 3 teams, in the near future, which is also kind of why I want to try and power through this season a little bit more aggressively. Now, by the looks of it, we're actually getting full-on interweather here for the entire race. And that's going to be fairly interesting because we had a wet quali where we used inter tires. I'm pretty sure the AI did too. We took care of ours. But the AI here could be in a bit of a pickle, I'm thinking. If we get a fun little situation where a 3-stopper... Sorry, not a 3-stopper. A 2-stopper potentially becomes a thing here. And we could gamble on just going full attack like this. And I think we're going to do that. And potentially here, we're going to add in an extra interstint. Now, this is Austria. It's not a place where you'd like to do what I'm currently doing. But the idea here is basically we burn the tires and try and make something happen by doing so. And as you can see, it is viable. It's about 3 seconds slower than this strategy. But this would probably allow us to do some overtaking, build some confidence, and generally just have a little bit of a better time. And also, again, we would most likely save some time in the event that we get a safety car, which also is fairly likely in a wet race at Austria. So we are going to go all in here, full attack, and if we see degradation being higher than expected, we'll probably pit around the 25 lap mark, if depending on the gaps, of course. But I think this could be a decent way of doing this strategy in order to try and score at least a 7th and an 8th place here, maybe a little bit higher if we're lucky. So that is going to be the plan. Let's see if we can actually turn into something good. Just going to double check here that we have actually gone ahead and underfueled, because that's going to be key in this race. So let us just jump straight in here and see what we can do in the current situation, if you will. Inters on everyone. It's not a surprise. There's no real crossover here. That's a really bad start from the McLaren. That is a terrible start from the McLaren, and you kind of see it here from Gasly. He could be getting Piastri here from the get-go. Unfortunately, that also puts Ocon a little bit of threat here. Gasly is actually more likely to get Norris now. Piastri kind of recovered into the corner. But it's definitely a good start for us. Powertrain components are at threat right now. We're actually running some pretty bad ones for Gasly, which is going to slow him down slightly. Noda has picked up some damage already. Don't know if we had that at the start. But yeah, so far this has been a decent enough start to the race. And I think we are most likely going to end up just kind of settling in here behind the McLarens. Maybe be a little bit cheeky, maybe be a little bit aggressive at times. But I don't think there's much we can do here. We're going to just tune Gasly down, allow him to cool down a little bit, create a little bit of a gap to his teammate. No need for him to cook his tires. He doesn't actually need to get the overtake done immediately. Ocon is, though. And if we can get the McLarens, that would be huge. Kind of doubt that, but let's see what we can do here as just the top speed there. No way we can compete with that. But so far looks good. Let's see what we can do over the course of this race. We've had a bit of an interesting situation here already. As you can see, Norris has gone off track, and we have flown past him in there. And that has currently put Ocon currently now potentially for fighting for a podium here, which would be way more than we expect. Now, I think we have kind of already committed, if you will, to a three-tire, two-stop strategy. I am stumbling over my words here. But it could definitely turn out to be the best option, because Ocon is now peak confidence. He is running a lot quicker than if he was running behind the other cars. As long as we can keep that going, Ocon will be in a position, and potentially Gasly too, although he does have weaker powertrain components. We could potentially put ourselves in a position for another podium, which would be insane, if you ask me. We'll see what we can do here. So far, it is looking very, very promising. Let's see if we can get past Gasly, past Russell, and Sainz, who has developed a small issue. We've had an incident here that seems to involve Norris, giving us, again, better opportunities for scoring points. That is some wing damage they picked up there while messing around with Tsunoda. Unfortunate for the McLarens. But we have definitely put ourselves now in a position where we are going to be doing a two-stopper. And we are going to be pitting probably on this next lap for Ocon. And he's going to be coming out around where Alonso is. So a little bit of fresh air. A lot of cars that are going to need to pit at some point. But probably pitting here a little bit earlier than I would like. So that is going to sting just a little bit, but it's still going to be acceptable. Ocon currently running 5th. Sainz behind him. We also have Leclerc here, who has developed a little bit of an issue as well. So that could also turn in our favor here. But yeah, we're definitely going to be falling down the order now that we are getting closer to pitting. And for Gasly, we're still going to have him push a couple more laps here, just to build that tire offset a little bit. He's still fairly quick compared to the cars behind. So the bigger the gap he can build, the better it's going to be for him. So let us see here now what Ocon can do and exactly where he is going to come out. He's now trundling down the pit lane. Gets the new tires on there. A good stop, 2.6 seconds. Stroll is going to fly past him. Alonso is not, however. And we do come out behind Hamilton. Now, with fresh tires, we should have no problems kind of getting past these cars in front. We might also want to run aggressive a little bit here. at the beginning, so we just don't immediately burn them off. But it's a bit of an aggressive strategy here, and it could definitely backfire. So let's see what we can do. Unfortunately for us, Gasly did end up having a bit of a slower stop, and this has caused us some issues in the sense that he is going to be coming out behind Alonso, as you can see. He just left the pits there. He would have had a chance of fighting Alonso out of the pits, if not. But it did put him in a bit of a bad position there, as Ocon is very, very rude to Stroll there. Basically puts him in the gravel. And with that said, though, Ocon is running pretty quick at the moment. He's actually not running quicker than the Red Bulls, as you can see. But we are about a second quicker than the cars ahead of us, so this could very well turn out to be a great move. We'll have to see, though. Again, overtaking was part of that, though, so he did lose a little bit of time. And with Sainz's mechanical fault evolving, Rick picking up a mechanical fault, it is looking very interesting here. 5 of the cars in the top 10 having issues. Things are getting spicy now with both Leclerc and Perez pitting and Ocon hunting them down. Both the Ferraris here also have major faults at the moment, which could slow them down. And Ocon, after Leclerc's pit stop here, is actually out ahead of him, which does give us some hopes here that we might actually beat these guys by the end of this race. Purely due to the fact that, well, Leclerc is slow due to major failures. That's number one. But also the fact that the fresh tyres definitely has had a huge effect here in allowing us to catch up again. And currently we're just 3 seconds behind Perez. And we are a good 13 seconds behind Piastri, who has yet to pit. So he's definitely going to come out behind us. And with that, the podium is on once again. With just a little over 20 laps to go here, things are getting interesting, in particular because Piastri is just 3 seconds behind us. And with him basically having fresh tyres, this could turn out to not go as well as we'd hoped. The other cars are taking better care of their tyres than we anticipated, and that is a little bit of a problem. Now, if Ocon can play a little bit of a game here for the next few laps, where he holds up the cars behind, this could still work out to our advantage, but that is going to be probably a little bit of a difficult game to play. Again, what we are trying to do here is just hold up the Ferrari mainly, so to burn the tires, to create extra heat in the engine, which is going to potentially speed up that chance of error drastically. But as it currently stands, we are going to be pitting and coming out somewhere around Norris and Tsunoda. Now that isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is a little bit troublesome. We could, I think, try and gamble here on Ocon, have him deploy all of his energy, pit him on this lap, and he might just barely be able to jump out ahead of Norris. I think that is going to be the best play that we do. Then we're going to, of course, have to catch up to cars ahead, who hasn't used as much tire as we hoped for. I'll be perfectly honest. They have not used as much tire as we hoped for, and this definitely might turn out to be a strategy that has backfired horribly. We'll have to see. But I think, again, just the play here is see if we can pull ourselves out ahead of Norris. And if we can, great. If we can't, shame, but no big loss, if you will. And for Gasly, we'll have him run a couple more laps, although pitting him too would be neat. And if we can push and get him out ahead of Hamilton, that would probably be for the best. That too is going to be a bit of a hard thing to judge here. So we are in the pits here with Ocon. Norris is currently doing the last couple of corners. Let us see here what we can do. Pit stop done, 2.8 seconds. That is pretty good. Norris is flying down the straight, and we barely get out ahead of him. So that has worked out perfectly for us. Now we're going to see if we can do something similar here with Gasly, as I mentioned. See if we can get him out ahead of Hamilton. That would be, you know, the hope. I don't think we're going to be able to do that though. But we'll see what we can do. We have kind of waited as long as we can before, in the hopes of having a Ferrari failure. It's not happening. And Ocon now has 20 seconds to make up if we want to get him back into the points, which is going to be probably a little bit more than what we're going to be capable of doing. I'll be honest. Gasly is done with his pit stop. Hamilton's flying down the straight. Gasly is out ahead of him, so we found some good windows for both of our cars. And now we're going to just push to the end and see what we can do here. Hopefully, we still will be able to turn this into maybe not a podium, but maybe a 4th place, maybe a 5th place, a little bit higher than we initially anticipated. We've had an incident here with Ocon and Russell, which is not a good thing. Russell has tried to overtake us, and then he... yeah, I think that goes... that should be on Russell's shoulders right there. He kind of ran into the back of us and gave us a little bit of a whack there, I'll be perfectly honest. What I want to do with Ocon here before this happened was to try and get fastest lap, which Piastri just set a 193. If anyone is to get penalized here, would be Russell, I would think, but he is safe. He actually picked up some front wing damage when he did that, so we'll tank that. That is actually beneficial for us. Sector-wise, we have an 18 blank. Probably not anything that we can do with this. Leclerc is going to be retiring here with mechanical fault. Let's take a quick look at that before we see if Ocon gets his fastest lap. Yeah, what happened? I don't know either. I'm sorry, Leclerc. I would assume, though, that he might be able to pit here. We'll see. Ocon does snatch fastest lap, which is lovely to see. We're going to run Conserva now a little bit for both cars. And just ensure that we can actually get the end of this with just 12 laps to go. Could still get a safety car here, which would be immense. And a 108, 1.4 seconds quicker than Piastri's. Yeah, I don't think we're catching Piastri by the end of this, let's be honest. For Gasly, the key is going to be to try and catch Norris, Russell. I don't think we are catching many of them, if any. Leclerc is still going with a major mechanical fault. I don't know if I like seeing this. What exactly is the problem? It is the ERS. Okay. The ERS is probably one of the least problematic major fault scenarios, so I guess that is fine. We're currently running a dry track. Still going to be interested till the end. Main concern right now is going to be if we're going to cook the tires or not. And again, I don't think we're getting Piastri. Getting Leclerc, though, should be viable. And for sorry, I don't think we're getting Piastri with Ocon. We're getting Leclerc should be viable. And for Gasly, we'll have to see what we can do here. It's going to be a rough time, I think. We are getting closer, though, for Gasly to be able to go back to balance, but he's actually overheating his engine when he does that because of the low condition. That is not a good thing. Rick has also had his mechanical fault evolve, so the end of this race here is going to be a little bit spicy, just due to these problems, really. And yeah, we're not catching Piastri here. Let's be honest. We gambled, we lost, and right now the tire advantage that we had is starting to become more equal, as Gasly has developed his own mechanical fault here. It's a gearbox issue too, that's not great. So we lost some acceleration, which is actually not a good thing around here. Let's put it like that. But acceleration, no acceleration. We spun Tsunoda? Yeah. Tsunoda spun, but I don't know if we were involved. Doesn't look like it. To be fair, though, we did. That's a good recovery. I'll say that. We did kind of push him on the curbs there, which definitely had an effect on him spinning. I'll be honest, but I don't think we were indirectly responsible. Let's say it like that. Now, Gasly here with the gearbox fault, though, is probably not going to be able to chase down Norris nor Russell. We can always hope. Ocon, though, as I mentioned, Leclerc is going to be an easy meal. And unfortunately, I think Gasly's too far behind to get him. But 4th place here would still be amazing. Leclerc has got another mechanical fault. Has he gotten a mechanical fault on something else?
What a miserable way to bow out of this one.
He hasn't bowed out yet, though. He's still going. No, it's actually given up right now. The RS is at 0% durability. Leclerc can't be stopped. I would like Ocon to get past him before he explodes. There we go. And as I mentioned here, I don't think we can chase down Piastri, but we'll take that. And at this point, we can actually just speed up a little bit here towards the end of this this race. Gasly just needs to hold on for Tsunoda, and honestly, I'll be happy with that. It would be great if we could catch Russell, but let's face it, that just isn't realistic under the current circumstances. And for Ocon here, Leclerc is actually kind of holding on at the moment. He's not letting go. And unfortunately for us, I would have been really, really happy if we had a DNF and a safety car here. But unfortunately, everyone survived the rainy weather. We'll have to see what we can do with Gasly, though, if his issue is going to evolve. And he's actually getting close here now to getting Russell. So we're going to give him a little bit of a helping hand here in these last couple of laps. For Ocon, I just wanted to get positive here on the fuel, so we don't DNF unexpectedly, if you will. Magnussen's fault is also evolving. But we are catching Russell here at an acceptable pace. We are about a second faster than last lap. Again, Leclerc having an issue with the ERS is what is actually saving him here, because the ERS... I can't actually believe that he is this quick with damage to his ERS. That actually does not make much sense. That is actually insanity that he is this quick with damage to the ERS. He is just flying, even so. We actually have DRS now because we are technically on a dry track. That is going to make the overtake here on Russell a lot easier. But it's also going to put pressure on us to actually clear him properly once we get the opportunity. I think we are just going to still use energy here. We are a lap down. It's kind of hard to judge what would be good usage of energy, but you can see Russell is quick at the moment. He's just flying. The acceleration is definitely an issue here for us. Like, we can keep up with DRS, but we are losing so much time in the corners at the moment. So this is going to be the last chance. I don't think we're getting it, unfortunately. Push everything. The acceleration, again, the acceleration that we have is just too weak, really, to get this overtake done. And there's no real way around it. Still, honorable attempt there by Gasly. We did try to get a podium here. I'd say getting fourth is still acceptable. Unfortunately for us, though, Verstappen did snatch... he did snatch the fastest lap there, and there's no way we're getting that back. He's a full second faster than us again. But yeah, 4th and 8th, I'd take that. Particularly when we had an issue. And we should have some better results in Britain and also at Hungary. So, yeah, good results. But again, it's just the same problem that I mentioned at the start of the video. We don't really have any way of fighting the top 3 teams here. We can keep up with one of them, maybe. But then they'll, switch things around next race weekend, and then we'll be losing out again. We can beat Mercedes, RB, and Aston with these. But we have kind of already found our ceiling or plateau. I think next time I'm just going to be finishing off this season, maybe do a couple of fun races. I still think Silverstone and also Hungary are a couple of races that would be fun to manually do, if you will. Going to break in there for Gasly, we'll take that. It's better than we expected. I got a little bit spooked there. There is a wasp in my room. I'm going to have to deal with that in a second. See, do we have slots available? Yes, we do. So let's manufacture a few front wings. So wasp says up in the ceiling, I do not care. But if you hear if I start yelling, it probably bit me. So you'll be warned. Give me a second.
Here we are with pit crew training. Should be decent enough. Did also survive my encounter with the wasp, which is probably good news. But yeah, let us see what we can do here. We probably also do need to consider the fact that we have some contracts here that we need to deal with. Rouse and the Bear. As well as Gasly's race engineer here. It would be a good idea to give him a boost. He's unhappy with the drivers currently. Let's see here what we can do staff-wise. I think we can find a new head of aerodynamics, maybe even a sporting director, nab them from other teams. Probably be the way to go here. And if I remember correctly, Balbo's contract and Tondo's contract are both running out. Now, the main benefit of nabbing high-level staff is not necessarily the fact that you get... Basically, the main benefit of snatching these staff members is not really the fact that you get better car parts. It's the mentality buff that you give to your team, as well as the fact that you give a mentality debuff, because the AI is currently very poor at choosing which replacements they want for staff that you are poaching, so to speak. We are going to give him a reasonable wage here of about 4 million. It makes sense. We're just going to up the signing bonus until he accepts. And I think a reason why a lot of people are saying that the staff members are getting poached is because they don't do a breakout multiplier. I've yet to have a member of staff that I've signed be poached. I see a lot of people say, oh, just lower the breakout multiplier. If you do this, you are straight up saying that they can break their contract for free. Now, currently the AI isn't properly paying these breakout costs, but they do seem to respect them, so do keep that in mind. We're going to send a proposal to Balbo. We'll see if he accepts or not. And I would love to have a decent spawn director, just because it's nice. Wheatley, I believe, is also on a 1-year contract, so we should be able to potentially pick him up for free as well. Give him a 3 million a year contract, and we're just going to up the signing bonus until he accepts. And generally, this is how I do things when it comes to signing staff. The offer deadline of 28 days doesn't actually mean it's going to take 28 days for him to respond. Most likely, it takes about a week. And the reason for that is because we've gone ahead and maximized the appeal. As long as you maximize appeal and have 28 days, they seem to actually respond a lot quicker, and we actually have a very nice counter to check exactly how long it takes to get a response, in the sense that it's the 1st of July. We sent a few contract proposals. Let's see how long it takes for us to get some back. Now, we could also potentially here see if we can get some better race engineers, but I think we're going to just stick with the one that we have. So we are going to give Howard here a new contract for 5 years. With the mentality buffs here, he is 90 rated anyways, and it takes time to build up a affinity with the driver anyways. There's no reason not to just give him a new contract straight up due to that. We could also actually pay him a little bit less here, just to make that happen. Him about 850 should be acceptable, because you also don't want to pay your staff too little, because that is a mentality debuff. Yeah, let's see if we can actually get something out of the staff here. I believe we are manufacturing with every slot that we have. We're going to get one in a day, but it's still going to take a while before we get any new parts or research done. So we're actually just going to jump directly into the British GP. Unsurprisingly, we once again quali 7th and 8th. Shouldn't come as a huge surprise. Now, if we take a look at what we can expect for the race day itself, it's once again going to be a wet affair with inters into wets, into potentially short inter period. Probably too short to actually do anything with. You can kind of see the idea here, and the question now is going to be: is it better to burn 2 sets of inters before we get to the wet period, or should we take care of the inters as much as possible, then make something happen during the wet period? So if we look at this, lap 24 is kind of when we're expected to need to go full wet tires. And what I'm seeing so far is that it's probably not going to be... Yeah, it's probably not going to be worth it to do double inters here. For some reason, we're expected to lose about 54 seconds. But to be fair, that's also because we are going on the wets on lap 24. So both of them are actually around the same time. And this kind of thing, it just estimates the tire, doesn't actually take into account the weather forecast. It could also be here that it means the actual time you should be hitting the wets here, because of this minor period. It's actually going to be lap 32.
And if it is lap 32, which is kind of where it was initially, where the AI wants us to pit, as you can see with Gasly, I could imagine that doing the two-stopper would be the better option. We would be pitting lap 16, we would be burning the tires, and as you can see, this would be about 10 seconds quicker, and again, we'd be able to build confidence. So I think we go with the same kind of a strategy that we did last time around. We are going to be burning 2 inter tires. It's going to be pretty quick, and also could be pretty bad. But if we see a need, we'll just take care of that second tire instead. And if we do it like this also, if we can actually survive this first potentially wet period, we'll be fine. And the question then is just going to be how hard we're going to run the wet tire. Because as mentioned, this might be an inter period where we are going to need to run, say, light or even conserve to survive. And this supposedly is 2, so I would assume this is 5. Our descent is also pretty terrible, so we don't have the, perfect numbers. But I think we gamble on this. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works, it could turn out to be a, a huge play for our team. But that's going to remain to be seen. And to fuel as much as we can as usual, and let's just jump in here and see what we can do. But this could be a very, very interesting race.
The anticipation. Hold on tight. It's the British Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
It's lights out and away we go. That's a little bit of a poor start there from both of our boys, actually. Allowing Tsunoda to slide in between. Tsunoda does have some component damage, though, I believe, so he's going to be a little bit slower than us just due to that. Which is going to help us out a little bit. Just going to double check that I did the correct thing with my drivers while I was babbling on. But yeah, getting overtaken here by Tsunoda is not going to be a big deal because we're going to get him back immediately. As you can see, Ocon was actually, at least for a second there, causing some problems for the Ferraris and the McLarens. Has been bullied back a little bit right now.
How is the track?
I would hope the track is damp, I'll be honest. I think we might just go high aggression here for Gasly. Get him past Tsunoda while we're still pushing fuel, pushing everything. Hopefully we can make that happen. I would think so, and honestly, we might do the same if Ocon. Just run high, overtake aggression from the get-go. Try and cause some mayhem here with the faster cars. If we can get ahead and slow them down, that would actually be kind of clutch. So there is still some opportunities. I'm also going to head here and replace the damaged components that Gasly was running. So he should now be a lot quicker than he was last race. Hopefully with that.
Got a yellow flag.
Magnussen has pulled off a spin. Ocon has gotten an overtake on Leclerc, which puts him into a very, very good position. Problem here, of course, is going to be the fact that we are most likely going to be burning our tires quite severely. So we might need to force Ocon to slow down a little bit, but for now, I think it is fine to just let him push as he is. I run a little bit of top up here and just aggressive for a little bit, get some of that energy back, so we can launch an attack on the cars ahead. And Leclerc's picked up a mechanical fault again. Big vibration, what would that be? Engine? Gearbox? He should have an absolutely fresh ERS in his car, so I can't imagine that he's picked up another ERS issue. No, it is the gearbox that he has, and that one is going to be slowing him down a lot more than the previous issue. So, yeah, this is actually kind of already looking very, very good for us. Going to have Ocon here try and push because Norris is actually really, really slow. He's already 2 seconds behind his teammate. Let's see if we can have Ocon here pull a little bit of a nasty overtake maybe on the McLaren, and he does straight up. Gets himself some free air to hunt down the other one, and so far we've had a really, really good start here. Now again, I am mentioning this, but what we're doing here is a bit of a gamble, trying to go to lap 32. We are going to, of course, save a little bit of the wet tire simply due to the fact that this is going to be a very, very short inter period. If the forecast is accurate. Degradation wise, we're also going a little bit over the limit, so the second stint here probably needs to be run aggressive. That is a-okay. But for now, we have kind of settled in. I want to try and have Ocon stay where he is. If he can slow down Norris, put some extra heat into Norris's tires, that would be good for the long term. But for now, we're just going to stay where we are, most likely until we get to our second stint. And of course, things can't go well here. Ocon has picked up a ERS issue, is what it sounds like. And it is, in fact, what it is. A reduced charge rate, that's going to be pretty bad for our pace here. Because that means that we aren't going to be able to harvest as much as we expect. If we look at the difference here, it's actually barely any difference at the moment. So maybe we'll be fine, but that is going to slow Ocon down a little bit as Norris has actually gotten the overtake done after we caught up to Piastri. Now that we're getting close to the pit stop here, we can kind of see also that we have definitely degraded a lot quicker than anticipated. Just running a couple of degrees over the maximum has severely hampered our tires, let's put it like that. And if we take a look here, probably going to come out somewhere between Stroll and Sargent for both of our cars. We're going to do a bit of a double stack here because we kind of have to. And we are going to go ahead and run these next inters on just standard so that we don't burn them as quick. Again, here we have fallen short about 4 laps, which is 25% of our expected life. So that is pretty terrible in terms of just how much tire performance we've actually lost. Now, the question here now is going to be, is this going to be a clean 1-2? Looks like it. Pretty clean double stack, that would seem like. And as I mentioned here, the question now is, can we also get back in the groove and make something happen? Sainz has picked up a mechanical fault. Ocon's mechanical fault has resolved itself, which is amazing. But for now, yeah, taking care of these tires, trying to get some overtakes done is going to be the play of the game. And honestly, I don't think it's going to matter much which strategy we end up employing here. 7th and 8th place is going to be ours, almost guaranteed. The fight that we're going to have is going to be to try and get 5th, 6th, any other top 6 positions from the top teams. 7th and 8th is going to be ours no matter what kind of weird strategies that we employ, which is a weird thing to say, but it's straight up the truth at the moment. So yeah, bit of a weird situation here. But for Ocon, who is catching up to Stroll and Hamilton, he'll be given ERS to just try and fly by them, and it should be fairly easy to do so. If we see a need here, we can run attack for, just until we get past, and we might as well just do that to make that a little bit easier for him. Could also push the fuel here a little bit. I would assume this would be a pretty simple overtake. We have a huge tire advantage. We have energy, but seems like Stroll is giving us a little bit of a harder fight than we anticipated. Can Hamilton do the same, or is he going to be just a sitting duck now that he doesn't have Stroll kind of going back and forth defending him, if you will? Yeah, there we go. We're going to keep on chasing. Hamilton is basically on the same strategy that we are. So we could see a lot of cars here now start pitting. And that could also allow us to, jump the McLarens if they do the same. We know Perez is going to pit, but let's be honest, he is not even close to undercut range. But Piastri and Norris are close to it. We just need to gain another 3 seconds, and we might be able to get them. So I have hopes, but it's not looking great right now. Now, we are getting into more of an interesting situation right now because, as you remember, we were expected to go onto the wets around lap 32. Now, the weather is actually moving further away from where we expected, and right now we're on lap 36, 37. So taking better care of these inters is definitely paying off. And depending on the AI's choices here with the wet tires, again, there's going to be a dip here. How devastating that dip is going to be for the tire wear, it's going to be playing a part here in our chance of catching cars ahead. But already here, they're getting below 50%. And over the next 6 laps, they're probably going to be hitting that 40% limit. So it's kind of a weird situation right now where I don't know what the best strategy is going to be. Could be going on inters immediately is going to be the best way to do things. Could be that staying out is going to be the best. Sorry, not inters, I mean wets, of course. going west immediately could be the best course of action, but it's kind of hard to judge at the moment. At least, though, we are currently getting back to where we are supposed to be, as Leclerc and Verstappen also has now minor mechanical issues. Well, Verstappen just picked up one, Leclerc has had one for a while, but we're definitely looking all right at the moment. But everyone is pushing. You can kind of see it on the lap times here. We had a 37.6, 38.5s, 37.5 there for Norris. So they are kind of burning down the tires, and I expect them to go onto a wet tire within the next 5 laps. So it's going to be weird. We'll have to see if we can actually, do anything to the top teams here. Leclerc, we might be able to fight, but the rest is going to be the rest of them is straight up going to depend on the weather. Now we're getting into, again, just a bit of a troublesome situation. We have just hit the full-on rain period here with a bit of a heavy rain coming in. But we're also hitting the point right now where the AI is struggling with tires. Piastri is down to 28%. He's going to be losing a lot of pace just due to that. And as the track gets weather here, it's also going to get worse for us running these inters. The question is, of course, going to be, is it going to be worth it to stay out on these inters for another 5 or so laps? Is this actually going to dip far enough down that it's going to be worth it for us? And I think the play here is actually going to be, looking at it right now, to go on wets as quickly as we can, or basically as close to 4mm as we can, and then go to another inter for the last 7 or so laps. That does currently seem to be the most likely best strategy, which is, again, not the greatest thing for us, but it's most likely what is going to pay off. I don't think this little dip here for the 3 laps or so is going to be worth to stay out any longer. But also, you can kind of see it here. It's not really getting fully wet here, most likely. If we judge our current water level with what we can expect, it is kind of pouring down right now. So I want to still stay out for one more lap here. I want to see what we get in a minute's time when we get that second wet period. If it's going to go high enough that we actually end up losing. Because it's, right now, I'm undecided with what is going to be our best strategy. As Ocon is now flying past a few cars here and starts up in 4th place. So kind of a weird one. Again, mainly just because it's so on the edge here. Again, it's just so on the edge that it's hard to say what is going to be the best thing to do here. Let's be honest, the others have gone onto a wet tire because they have to. Because if they stayed out any further, they would be risking a puncture. So it makes sense from that perspective. Although, again, the weather is going up here. If we can survive 3 more minutes, it might also be worth it to just run these tires into the ground, although Perez is pitting right now. I don't know. Again, it's just one of those really, really hard choices. We are in wet territory right now, but it's going to be wet enough that it's going to be a problem. Right now, Ocon is actually holding off Norris. And Norris is on wet tire. We're on old inters. And particularly around Silverstone, inters can compete with wets sometimes. And we're kind of seeing that right now, although we're kind of also holding up the train a little bit here. Definitely slower than the wet runners, particularly Verstappen, by 3 seconds. So I don't know. It's again one of those tough choices where we have to make a bit of a decision. But again, my concern is just straight up the fact that we are going to end up going... We're going to end up going inters again towards the end. And I've probably been a little bit too stubborn here, stayed out a little bit longer than I should. So let's just go in the wets. Let's just burn them down as much as we can. And we'll go another interstint there towards the end. It's a bit unfortunate that it has taken me this long to come to this decision, I'll be honest, because we're going to lose out to Tsunoda. And we do lose a lot of time here simply by being a bit of a nuisance. But it's fine. It is a strategy that I want to try and employ. And again, here, I don't think it's going to work now. It seemed earlier in the race that we're going to go a lot drier to basically this level. So that also played a part in my decision. Now, Sonoda, currently going around the final corner. Gasly is just about getting out of the pits. So we're not really losing out on that 7th and 8th place. And the goal here will then be to see if we can catch Leclerc by the end of this, I guess. Because he is really the only target within... within the acceptable gap, if you speak. We have 10 seconds. We could potentially catch him. I doubt it. I'm very curious also what the AI is going to do towards the end here. So let's just speed along here. This strategy kind of backfired. If I'd gone on wets when I should have, and I actually trusted my gut there, and we pushed the inters, probably would have looked a lot better. I'll be perfectly honest. Now we're actually getting now to the window here where I thought we might need to slow down, and it shouldn't last for too long here, but it's going to be light rain now for another 6 minutes. Let's go ahead and at least turn the car down to standard, balance fuel usage.
Okay.
I don't want to overcook these tires if I can avoid it. It is 95 degrees that they kind of start exploding on. And we'll see now just exactly how low does this go. And it's going to go really low. Okay. Tune down the temperatures here. We're going to actually have to run conservative. That was kind of what I was worried about. And it would actually have potentially paid off to force myself onto another set of inters instead of wets here. But again, the period was very, very low. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that's hard to judge. Like, hindsight is 2020. It could have paid off massively. I'm not going to say that it wouldn't have. But at the same time, yeah, if it had lasted like 2-3 more laps, then yeah, definitely inters would be the best. With how short that period was, most likely doing what we did here and just getting on the wets a few laps earlier would have paid off a lot more than what we ended up doing. As Leclerc's fault has turned into a major one, and second race in a row here where we might see a Leclerc DNF. And because of the insane amounts of weather right now, 6 millimeters almost, I don't think we are going to be seeing this drop be good enough to, by the end of this. We could be seeing some punctures though, I'll be perfectly honest. We could be seeing some punctures with that drop towards the end of the race. But nothing that's gonna cause any sort of dents our way or their way, I think. We're still gonna be fine. And if we take a look at the lap times here, because that's kind of what we care about. On the inters, we were running 40-ish 38s. We could benefit from jumping onto inters here towards the end, but with 5 laps remaining, this is basically when we would have had to switch tires to make that viable. So yeah, unfortunately, not going to happen. Tires now are going to start cooking even harder than they currently are. And at this rate, Ocon might be in danger of not making it till the end because of how we are doing things. So yeah, I don't think we're getting Leclerc here. We're going to have to just try and survive the last few laps. It's a bit of a shame though, because it was a good opportunity, but I threw it away because we stayed out for too long. I'll be perfectly honest, that is exactly what happened. We stayed out too long. It backfired tremendously. And as a result here, we have lost potentially a 6th place, which again isn't huge in terms of points. But it would have been extra points, and that is something that is important in its own right, if you will. And as you can see here, we're just going to barely survive with 37%. Paris here could also end up in the puncture range with a few more laps here. So strategy-wise,
That is the checkered flag.
going full attack on the inters. Alonso gets a puncture there. Going full attack on the inters for 2 stints from a strategy standpoint wasn't wrong. But the fact that I did not follow through and I did not pit in that first rain window is definitely a strategic error on my part. But yeah, that is kind of how this panned out. 7 and 8 is still acceptable, but as mentioned here, we really should have gone Leclerc there, particularly when he had damage. But 4th place together is what we will take away from that race weekend. Next up, we are going to do Hungary as well. Get through that as Lacourt and Howard both level up. Sporting changes here. I love this. Extra gearbox, extra ERS. It's not really going to help us too much. The extra ERS will, for sure. Extra gearbox is more so for the AI's sake. So I'm definitely happy with that regulation change. Gonna get the car set up, and we are going to jump into the next race weekend here at Hungary. The regulation change here did go through, which means that next year we get extra gearbox, extra ERS. Definitely happy about that. We also have a chassis research here completed, and we're just going to go ahead and immediately improve on that. Basically, we're going to make another one. You have no CFD period. We've already invested that, which is good to do. I just like checking whenever I sit down for a new session to make sure that I've done that, so I don't waste it. But yeah, we're going to continue developing our chassis here like so. Now, we also did see here that we did get a response from Balbo. We're going to have to pay 6 million if we want him. Probably a little bit too much, but, you know, causing problems for Red Bull would kind of outweigh that cost. We don't have a lot of money, though. So probably Tondi would have been a better option here, simply because Tondi is on his last year of contract, unless I'm mistaken. But I think we are going to go ahead and pick him up for next year. It's just, again, it's just one of those easy choices that you can make with staff. I think Tondi, again, would be a better choice. Just find a better staff member that has a contract that runs out at the end of this year. And as I mentioned here, even if we give him 28 days, he's most likely going to respond before that. In this case, it took 15 days to respond, which is still a long time, don't get me wrong, but a lot quicker than we initially expected. So I'd still say that is an acceptable amount of time. Let's see here, Hungary. Are we going to have more rain this time around? Nope, we're actually going to have a dry race, so that's going to make things probably a little bit more interesting. 6th and 7th on the grid here, so hopefully can live up to that and score better than 7th and 8th place. As expected, 6th and 8th, well, we did actually beat Piastri here, but to be fair, Piastri had a very weird qualifying where he basically lost half a second from Q2 to Q3. He should be ahead of us with these, so yeah, that's a yikes right there for the McLaren man. But honestly, again, we are just straight up stuck right now as the 4th best team. And I think I'm just going to sim through the rest of the season in the next part, and we'll get prepped for season 2. Kind of focusing a little bit more on the research aspect in that next video. I think it's just going to be really the best that I can do, the current situation, if you will. Now, Hungary is a little bit of a weird track in the sense that degradation is fairly high, and it's kind of hard to make a good strategy around here because of that, as mentioned, high degradation. However, you can do some interesting stuff here with the hard tire because it is actually somewhat better than the medium. Now, I'm curious what we can do here to make things a little bit better. Can we burn the hard tire? Would there be any sense in doing that? Not really. Basically, if we're going to use the hard tire, it would be more of a standard run than anything. I think this is going to be the best that we can go for. Run the softs a little bit light, get a little bit of a tire advantage going into the hard and the medium, and try and just stay out a little bit longer and maybe get an advantage if the other teams mess up. Now, I would prefer to have the hard later on in the stint because of that. But considering we only have really 4 compounds to play around with, we don't really have much of a choice. We can, of course, do a little bit of a different strategy here for, say, Gasly to spice things up a little bit, where we do a triple stopper, for instance. But I don't really know if that's going to be noticeably quicker than just doing what we're doing with Ocon, where we start on soft tire, we take a little bit easier, go onto the hard tire, make as much of that as we can, and then we finished it off with a medium stint towards the end. I think this is going to be probably the best that we can do, and it does also give us a little bit of freedom if something happens. And again, 2 seconds between this strategy and this strategy is not enough for me to pick this strategy over the other one. This one would be more fun, don't get me wrong, but it does come with the major drawback that it is an extra stop. It is just 2 seconds. We're going to lose those 2 seconds really, really easy once we get stuck in just a slight amount of traffic. So we are just not gonna bother putting ourselves in that situation to begin with. Now, with that said, we are gonna run light soft stint to start off with, and that should be a-okay. We are probably gonna end up running 7th and 8th for most of this race, and unless we have an incident that switches things up a little bit, that is also most likely where we're gonna finish. I don't think we want to take a penalty for Ocon until he destroys one of these ERSs or they end up orange, so we'll have him run the damage part for now. Yeah. Hungary, we should be able to perform well here, but the other teams have caught up. We were 3rd at one point, now we're 7th.
This is it.
So, in terms of car performance, the top 3 teams should beat us. It's just that simple.
And it's lights out.
There is a medium runner in here. Do I see some hard runners? Yeah, Tsunoda has a hard tire, and he's also still running a damage component. If you're curious about that, the recent patch kind of made them not run damage components that have orange damage or major damage, but they'll still run minor damage components like like Tsunoda currently is doing. That is not a bug or anything like that. That's just good business. I would also still run minor damage components because otherwise it becomes prohibitively expensive to switch them out all the time. Now, honestly, a good start here. Ocon jumps one car, Gasly retains where he is. We have a lockup from Stroll, putting him basically at the back of the grid. Kind of out of contention there, unless he gets the safety car. And with Perez burning his tires and everyone around is kind of doing that very same thing, I'd say we are currently in a very, very, very good situation here. Russell has already picked up a major mechanical fault. I would be surprised if he survives till the end. To be fair, though, it is a rest fault, so he will most likely do the same thing that Leclerc did and just run and survive even so. Now, one of the issues that we might run into here is going to be temperatures. In this case, we have one underheated tire, which is fine. We're basically running at the limit currently, which means that running a light medium is most likely not viable. And honestly, as I mentioned earlier, Ocon, we're not going to be able to keep up with the top 6 teams here. It's just that simple. There's no real advantage that we can find that allows us to close the gap. Now, as long as Ocon runs with Piastri, he still has a bit of a chance. But it's not something that he is going to be able to do for a long time. And you can already kind of see it this lap. He is falling back. We could push the little energy that we have left. But even that is not going to make a huge difference. Now, because the fact that we're saving our tire, we could still, have something happen towards the end here. And we already have another mechanical failure with Show. So we're just going to settle in here, 7th and 8th. We're going to allow this first stint to run its course. And see if maybe we can take advantage of a safety car to score a little bit better than our current positions. Show's fault here has become terminal. And this bug should also be fixed where it shows the wrong car. But as you can see, Ocon has... sorry, not Ocon. Show has already found its way to the garage. We're getting close to our first stops here. And honestly, we are probably still going to be running 8th and... or rather 7th and 8th after the stops here. Tsunoda also needs to pit, so that is just fine. Now, we have stayed out a little bit shorter than we anticipated. Gasly should be fine staying out one more lap after this. They're too close to really do a double stop. But we'll just have to live with the choice that we made. And as I mentioned here, we should still be net 7th and 8th. We did slow down a few of the cars here. As you can see, Piastri Verstappen by having them run behind Gasly and Ocon. So we did actually end up with a little bit of a benefit here from blocking these cars. So maybe we can turn it into advantage towards the end. We'll have to see, as Gasly has a little bit of a slow pit stop again. He had that earlier in the session as well. But it shouldn't have any huge effects here. To be fair, though, Tsunoda behind on a fresh soft is not necessarily good news. But we should be able to follow him. So we might be able to get a little bit of extra pace out of Tsunoda due to that. And as you can see here, Rick should be peeling into the pits himself on this very lap, so we don't actually need to pass him on track. 7 and 8 is what we'll be going for. We'll have to see if we can keep Tsunoda at bay until he burns off his soft tires, and if we can't, honestly, Gasly following him and taking advantage of them would be amazing. We've had an incident, no safety cars of yet, but it seems to be maybe Leclerc that has been involved here. And it is Leclerc trying to get past a back marker. I'm not sure exactly which has that is. That's not a good move, though. I'll be honest. That is honestly, if I saw that in reality, that would just kind of hint towards. That would tell me basically that Leclerc was a bit too stressed, a little bit too rushed there in trying to get past the Magnussen, which is unfortunate. But if any penalty were to be given there, probably for Leclerc. Although to be fair, Magnussen should get out of the way, but that doesn't give you any reason to drive into the back of the man. So I don't know how I feel about that one. Now, with Leclerc having some damage, it does open up the door for Ocon, but we are 14 seconds down the road. So we're going to have an amazing final stint if we want to make anything happen with the current situation. We have another incident just as we're about to get to our pit stops, and it's kind of looking like Leclerc and the Haas again. Charles Leclerc versus Magnussen. Is it the same? The worst thing for Leclerc is that he just pitted. He literally just pitted onto a hard tire. That is that's really unfortunate for him. This time it's Hulkenberg though, so Charles Leclerc versus Haas. He definitely there to get that Kali money, I guess. I just don't get how that happened and how it's happened twice. That's pretty terrible. Hulkenberg got a penalty there, so I guess he didn't get out of the way correctly. Brake tested him maybe, but yeah, it looked like just a weird one. But he ran into the back of him. Leclerc should still be safe though, even though it is major damage. I guess it just major damage to the looks like it just major damage to the front wing there. So he should be fine. Tsunoda has pushed another soft tire and is coming up behind us here, but he's going to have to pit alongside us. So honestly, not really a huge deal here. We are still pretty much safe as Leclerc sets fastest lap with a decent chunk of his front wing missing. Let's just put it like that. Tsunoda comes in the pits alongside us, so he might be a little bit of a troublesome customer right now. I'm going to have Gasly deploy here just to make sure that we come out ahead of him. As we have a virtual safety car now. Who was that? Is that Leclerc? No. Who's parked out of the track? It's Hulkenberg. After he got punished, if you will.
We're following the action through turn 5.
What exactly happened here? Did he lose the rear?
In a split second, the impact's made.
Basically, yes. Lost the rear, spun around, hit the wall. That is a bit unfortunate there from the Haas. But it does give us a little bit of a cheaper pit stop here for Ocon. Sorry, not for Ocon, for Gasly. Which is going to help him in his fight versus Tsunoda. But yeah. Paris is also in the mix here. Not really anything we can, contend with, let's be perfectly honest. Leclerc was still looking quick, even with the damage to the wing. Ocon and Gasly are kind of running together right now, so we are just going to allow them to kind of run like that until the end. 10 seconds down to Tsunoda on the same tire. We should have no problem just staying the course, if you will. We're getting closer to the end of this race. We have just started our final lap. We're about a second and a half off from Perez, and we have a little bit of a tire advantage currently. It's not a massive advantage, but it is enough that potentially here we might be able to catch up to him. It's going to be difficult to get an overtake done, though, without DRS, so... But we did try. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit too little here. If Ocon had gotten the benefit of virtual safety car pit stopping, maybe he would have had a chance here at catching the Perez, but unfortunately, not going to happen. Leclerc also held up well, even with the damage that he received to his front wing, and we'll take that 7th and 8th place. We kind of finished where we expected, with both Saubers here having major failures causing DNFs. But yeah, that is basically going to be it, I think, for today's episode. And not next time around, we are going to simulate the rest of the season. We are kind of settled in very nicely now in the position of the 4th best team. We just need to have a little bit of a better car before we can even consider fighting any other top 3 on a regular basis. So next time around, we are going to get through the season and probably build a car for Season 2 and see how we stack up. Hope you've enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you around next time. Bye bye.